There is one number that keeps American archaeologists awake at night: 1.5 billion pounds. That is how much nearly pure copper vanished from the shores of Lake Superior thousands of years before Columbus ever saw open water. Not melted, not buried in a museum drawer. Gone, with almost nothing to show where it went. Somewhere between a forgotten island in Lake Superior and a shattered wooden hull lying 50 meters off the coast of Turkey, there may be an answer. This is the story of both. Isle Royale sits in the coldest, most unforgiving stretch of Lake Superior. Today it is a national park. Wolves cross it in winter over sheets of ice. Moose wade through its bogs in summer. For most of the year, almost no human being sets foot there at all. 6,500 years ago, someone did. Thousands of them. Walk the ridgelines above Macargo Cove, and the ground itself tells you something is wrong. Pits, hundreds of them, some 20 feet deep, cut into solid basalt with nothing but stone hammers and fire. No steel, no wheels, no draft animals, just human hands, patience and heat. And they didn't stop at Isle Royale. Across the Keweenaw Peninsula, on the far shore of the lake, archaeologists have logged more than 5,000 ancient mining pits. Site index 7.1. Over 1.5 billion pounds of pure copper were extracted from the earth between roughly 3000 and 1200 BCE. Site aid, centuries before the pyramids were finished, before the wheel reached most of the world, before anyone in the Americas is supposed to have organized labor on an industrial scale. The tools were still there. The miners were not. No village, no permanent house foundations, no burial mounds packed with the wealth such an operation should have produced. Just cold pits, cracked stone hammers scattered like they were dropped mid-swing, and silence. That absence is the first clue. It will not be the last. Here is where the case gets stranger. Archaeologists don't dispute that the mining happened. They dispute something far more unsettling, where all that copper actually went. Site index 10.1. In 2013, geochemist David Pompeni and his colleagues went looking for proof buried in lake sediment itself. Cite it not in the mines, but in the mud beneath Lake Superior. Mining releases lead. Heating and hammering copper releases more of it, along with trace potassium from the fires. All of it settles layer by layer into the lakebed, like a geological tape recorder no one thought to erase. What they found in Macargo Cove was unambiguous. A spike in lead and copper contamination beginning around 6,500 years ago, holding steady for roughly 1,000 years, then stopping. Abruptly, not fading out. Stopping, the way a switch gets thrown. The lake had recorded the mining boom and the mining bust, in chemistry, with no need for a single written word. But here is the unanswered question underneath that data. Native American archaeological sites across the continent, burial mounds, village sites, trade caches, contain copper. Beautiful copper. Ornaments, spear points, ceremonial breastplates, but nowhere near enough of it. Only a sliver of that 1.5 billion pounds shows up anywhere in the archaeological record of the people who are known to have used the mines. So the math refuses to close. Millions of pounds were pulled from the ground. A small fraction can be accounted for. The rest, most of it, has never been found. Mainstream archaeologists have an answer for this, and it deserves to be heard honestly. Copper corrodes. Copper gets recycled generation after generation into new tools. Copper caches remain undiscovered under farmland and forest floor to this day, and estimates of billions of pounds may themselves be inflated by 19th century surveyors eager to sell mining stock. That explanation is reasonable, it may even be correct, but it does not explain everything. And thousands of miles away, in the wreck of a ship that sank 3,000 years ago, another piece of this puzzle was waiting on the sea floor. In 1982, a Turkish sponge diver named Mehmet Sakir came back from a dive near Uluburun on Turkey's southern coast and described something strange to his crew: metal biscuits with ears. Site index 18.1. That description reached archaeologists at the Bodrum Museum of Underwater Archaeology, who sent a team to investigate. What they found, lying in the dark 50 meters down, was one of the oldest shipwrecks ever excavated by human divers, a late Bronze Age trading vessel, sunk around 1300 BCE, carrying a cargo so large it took 11 years of diving seasons to fully recover. The metal biscuits were oxide ingots, flat copper bars shaped with 4 corner projections, like stretched animal hides, designed to be gripped, stacked, and carried on the backs of pack animals across the ancient Mediterranean. Site Index 1811. The Uluburun ship carried roughly 10 tons of raw copper, 354 ingots in total, Site 11, along with approximately 1 ton of tin, enough to produce about 11 tons of finished bronze. Site E. Enough to produce about 11 tons of finished bronze. This was not a curiosity. This was the ancient world's most valuable commodity, moving in bulk on a scale that could arm an army or build an empire's tools. And here is the detail that pulls this wreck directly into the Lake Superior mystery. Site Index 17-1. Researchers studying the Uluburun ingots found the copper to be extraordinarily pure, more than 99.5%, and concluded it was not produced by ordinary smelting from ore. Site In. Smelted copper carries a signature, trace impurities from the rock it was extracted from. This copper barely had any. There is only one other copper source on Earth from this era, known to reach that level of near total purity without smelting. Lake Superior. Copper this pure is rare because most copper on Earth is chemically bonded to other minerals inside low-grade ore. Extracting it clean requires smelting, melting ore at extreme heat to separate the metal, a process that always leaves behind trace contamination from the original rock, arsenic, tin, cobalt, gold, in small but detectable amounts. Lake Superior copper is different. It occurs in nature as native metal, nearly pure copper, sometimes laced with visible flecks of silver, sitting in solid form inside volcanic rock, requiring no smelting at all. Just heat it, hammer it, shape it. Site Index 17-1. Analysis comparing native Michigan copper to European manufactured copper and bronze artifacts found that Michigan copper consistently showed lower levels of tin, arsenic, gold, and especially cobalt than the European material. Site E. The fingerprint of unsmelted native metal, not ore-derived copper. And the connection researchers keep returning to is specific. Site Index 17T1. This level of purity has been identified almost nowhere else, while it is known to have been mined in enormous quantities during the Bronze Age at Lake Superior, Site I. Put those two facts side by side. A wreck in the eastern Mediterranean, carrying 10 tons of copper too pure to have come from ordinary old world ore, and a lake in North America where miners pulled over 1 billion pounds of copper this pure out of the ground, then vanished, leaving almost none of it behind in the archaeological record of the people we know lived there. Coincidence or connection? The mainstream position is caution. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof, and purity alone is not a fingerprint, only a clue. But the question refuses to close itself quietly. If the connection is real, the next question is brutal in its simplicity. How does copper travel from an island in the coldest lake in North America to a merchant ship in the Mediterranean, 3,000 years before anyone is supposed to have crossed the Atlantic on purpose? Site Index 11-1. Some researchers point to the physical evidence of ancient mariners already documented in the region. Hundreds of petroglyphs carved into limestone near Peterborough, Canada. Some interpreted as records of an expedition to acquire copper, and a carved ship petroglyph found only a few miles from Copper Harbour at the tip of the Keweenaw Peninsula. Site Index 11-1. A stone found on the Keweenaw shoreline depicts figures alongside what appears to be a double-hulled vessel its site. But the theory has an obvious hole, and it deserves to be named directly, not buried. Site Index 11-1. No shipwrecks of ocean-going vessels have ever been found in Lake Superior, and there is no trace of permanent docks, towns or levees that thousands of years of mining activity should have left behind. Site. Proponents of the theory answer that gap with geography, not mysticism. Site index, EL 11.1. They argue ocean-going ships never needed to enter Lake Superior at all, that copper was moved by canoe to coastal collection points, then carried onward by larger boats, while ocean vessels waited safely at the coastline. Site index, 11:1. One proposed route follows the shoreline south through a glacial waterway called Whitefish Gap, a passage that no longer exists today, but whose course is still traced by the modern Whitefish River, connecting toward the Great Lakes and ultimately the Mississippi River system. Site. It is an elegant theory. It is also, so far, unproven. No wreck, no dock, no definitive artifact caught in the act of transit between two continents. That is precisely why the case keeps escalating instead of closing. Just when the physical evidence stalls, a different kind of evidence enters the investigation, one written not in stone but in blood. A genetic marker known as mitochondrial haplogroup X has been identified among the Ojibwe and Chippewa peoples living near Lake Superior today. That marker is also found, at notably high frequency, among populations historically connected to the ancient Mediterranean trading world. Researchers examining the geographic spread of that marker have described its overlay with the known trading range of the Minoan civilization of Bronze Age Crete as strikingly close. This is where the investigation must slow down and be honest about its own limits. The genetic argument is compelling on the page and deeply contested in the field. Haplogroup X exists in multiple ancient populations for reasons that may have nothing to do with transatlantic contact, including migration patterns that long predate the Bronze Age entirely. Mainstream geneticists overwhelmingly favor explanations rooted in prehistoric population movement across Siberia and into North America, not seaborne contact 3,000 years later. The theory remains a minority position, treated by most professional archaeologists as unproven at best, but even skeptics admit what it cannot yet fully explain: why the purity signature, the missing copper, and this genetic marker all point, independently, toward the same region of the world, at the same historical moment. Three separate lines of evidence, three separate disciplines. One repeating coincidence that refuses to disappear no matter which angle it's examined from. Return to Lake Superior. Return to the lake bed sediment. The pollution recorded in the sediment core did not simply fade away. It stopped abruptly, and pollution levels did not rise again until commercial mining resumed in the region during the mid-1800s. Whatever ended the ancient mining operation, it ended it everywhere, all at once, across an entire region. The researchers who found this evidence admit they do not know why the mining stopped so suddenly, and can only speculate that the miners may have exhausted the easily accessible veins and moved on. That is the honest, cautious, mainstream answer. It is also strangely unsatisfying against the scale of what was abandoned. Thousands of pits, 1,000 years of continuous labor. Stopped everywhere, at once, not gradually tapering as veins ran dry region by region, the way exhaustion of a resource normally looks. Now hold that timing against a second fact that has nothing on its surface to do with Lake Superior at all: the Bronze Age itself. The very civilization whose demand for copper is argued to explain where Michigan's missing metal went, collapsed around 1200 BCE, a period when the Minoan civilization and the wider Mediterranean trading world fell into sudden crisis. An ocean apart, a mining operation abandoned in North America, a trading empire collapsing in the Mediterranean, both, according to the evidence, ending in the same narrow window of centuries. If there is no connection between them, it is one of history's more remarkable coincidences. Any honest investigation has to give the strongest version of the opposing case, not the weakest. Most professional archaeologists reject the transatlantic copper trade theory, and their reasoning is not dismissive, it is evidentiary. No Bronze Age Mediterranean artifact has ever been recovered from a confirmed North American archaeological context. No wreck of an ocean-crossing vessel has been found anywhere on the Great Lakes. The tool similarities cited between Minoan and Lake Superior mining sites can also be explained by convergent technology. Stone hammers and fire setting are the only options available to any pre-metal tool culture mining hard rock anywhere on Earth, independent of contact. And the missing copper may simply reflect the limits of the archaeological record itself. Buried caches not yet found. Copper endlessly recycled into new tools across thousands of years, and inflated 19th century estimates of how much was actually extracted in the first place. This is a serious defensible position, held by the overwhelming majority of trained archaeologists. It may well be correct, but it has not closed the case. It has not explained the purity match. It has not explained the timing. It has not produced the wreck, the dock, or the definitive artifact that would end the argument outright, in either direction. Every unsolved case has a piece of evidence that would end the argument overnight. For this one, everyone in the field agrees on what it would be: a single Old World Bronze Age artifact, or a single confirmed piece of Lake Superior native copper found embedded in a verified context on the opposite side of the Atlantic. Not a theory, not a purity chart, an object in the ground in the wrong hemisphere. Trace element fingerprinting, the same technique used to link volcanic obsidian tools to their exact quarry of origin, is advancing fast enough that this may not remain hypothetical for long. Researchers have already begun comparing trace element signatures from Lake Superior copper samples against Old World Bronze Age artifacts using probable geographic and geologic source identification methods. That work is ongoing. It has not yet produced a confirmed match, but it also has not ruled one out. Somewhere between the pits of Isle Royale and the ingots of Uluburun, the next diagnostic test, the next sediment core, or the next dive on an unexplored Mediterranean wreck could be the one that finally closes this file. Until then, it stays open. 1.5 billion pounds of nearly pure copper came out of the ground on the shores of a lake in North America, thousands of years before anyone was supposed to be capable of moving it anywhere at industrial scale. Almost none of it can be found in the archaeological record of the people who mined it. Thousands of miles away, at the bottom of the sea off the coast of Turkey, a Bronze Age merchant ship went down carrying 10 tons of copper too pure to have come from any known ore deposit in the Old World. The tools match. The purity matches. The timing matches. The proof does not yet. The miners left their hammers on Isle Royale and never came back for them. The ship left the coast of Anatolia and never made it home either. 2 disappearances, 1 ocean between them, and somewhere in the water or in the ground still, the evidence that could finally connect them. The copper survived. The explanation did not.